talking about inflation a lot, rising prices for the American consumer. Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell concluding 2 days of testimony yesterday before lawmakers, where he said that policymakers are uncomfortable with the current levels of inflation. However, the driving forces are likely temporary factors. Joining me right now is the former CEO of CKE Restaurants and Second Vote Advisory Board member, Andy Puzder. Andy, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. What are you seeing in terms of prices out there, and do you think that it's temporary?
No, I don't think it's temporary. And there was a recent survey by the National Federation of Independent Businesses where most businesses don't think it's temporary. You're seeing energy prices go up because of energy policy, where the world's largest oil producer, the United States, is going to cut back on production. You're seeing labor prices go up because we've got policies that discourage work. And then you're seeing housing prices go up. So you've got housing, energy, and labor going up, and labor and energy affect the price of everything. So I'm really not sure why the Fed seems to think that this inflation is going to be temporary. I think they're looking at the trees and not the forest of inflation. They need to look a little more broadly.
Well, I think you make a really good point about energy and labor. I mean, these are two forces that do not, reverse course overnight. And yet I think Jay Powell is talking about some of these supply chain shortages are due to COVID or are due to the moment that we are in now. And they're expecting that those to loosen up. They're saying that these global shortages in the supply chain are the reason for the temporary inflation.
Well, it's certainly true that the supply chains were hobbled during the pandemic. But if you want to restore the supply chains, you have to have people working. I mean, people need to get back to work so that we can get the goods and services that the economy needs. And people aren't going back to work in the United States because we have policies that discourage people from working. So you're not really seeing the labor market recover like we expected it to recover. Even liberal economists expected it to recover. And until we see a return to work, you're really not going to see that supply chain improve. And even when you do, if you've also got discouraging policies on energy, which are keeping energy prices up, you're still going to have an impact from inflation. So this is going to be with us for a while. I think they're looking at these glitches in the supply chain. They're not looking at the overall supply chain or the incredible demand that's out there right now, since there's been so much government largesse. It's not just the supply side, but the demand side is incredibly high, while the supply side is really crippled. So we have some problems to work through here, and I think they're being overly optimistic.
Yeah, and that's another thing that they're pointing to in terms of being temporary, saying that, the demand side is rising because the economy is opening slowly but surely, but that stabilizes. Let me bring James Freeman in here. James, it's sort of this circle of issues that keep hitting the consumer. Andy's talking about energy and he's talking about labor costs. So as businesses are looking to hire people and they can't find the people to put in the jobs, they're forced to offer more incentives. That pushes wages up and that pushes inflation up overall. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we see it every month in the national survey and in the NFIB small business survey, just employers who cannot find workers, this historic shortage, historic number of openings. But also on the inflation front, Andy, I'm wondering if it's the Fed's credibility that's going to be transitory here, because they've been telling us about, it's just temporary. But I don't remember a lot of Fed officials saying a few months ago it's going to be running over 5% for a while, but don't sweat it.
No, they weren't saying that. They were saying that inflation was going to be much, much lower. And Powell admitted that in his comments recently, and also tried to give himself an out, saying that inflation may be more serious than they're contemplating. And if you look at if you want to look at what's going to continue, look at how much money the Biden administration is talking about pouring into the economy. The demand that's out there isn't just because demand was suppressed during the pandemic. It's also because people have a lot of money. Savings accounts are way up. People have been getting money during the pandemic and not spending because of the risks. Now they want to do an infrastructure bill that's at least going to be $1 trillion, which is going to also, by the way, drive up the cost of things like concrete and lumber. And they want to put 3.5 trillion more dollars into the economy. This is they're just pouring fire on this, gas on this demand fire that's out there already. So I don't think that the Fed is realistically looking at the problem of inflation. I think these businesses that you referred to in the NFIB survey, they are looking more realistically because they depend on their survival for this. If they're wrong, they're out of business. If the Fed's wrong, it apologizes and comes up with a new forecast. So I think we're seeing some really serious underestimating of the potential impact of inflation.
Well, this is not the only pressure that is coming at the American consumer right now, Andy. As you know, I want to ask you your thoughts on this global taxation story. So the Wall Street Journal editorial board out with a op-ed this morning on the global minimum tax plan, calling it a threat to congressional power, titled "Congress Goes AWOL on Global Taxation." The journal writes, "No taxation without representation. The French helped America win the revolution under that banner, but that does not mean Emmanuel Macron should be able to write U.S. tax policy." Andy, I mean, I don't understand how President Biden expects all of these countries to go along with his plans to have a floor on taxes and a global minimum tax of 15%. As I point out all the time, for Ireland, as an example, that would be a tax increase. Why would anybody go along with making sure that the U.S. stays competitive?
Well, look, Ireland, Hungary, Nigeria, Kenya, Sri Lanka. I mean, there are a number of countries out there that would love to be tax havens, and some of them are tax havens now. A serious problem here, and you raise it, and the Wall Street Journal raises it in the article as well. Is this even constitutional? Is this an attempt to go around Congress, like the Iran deal, the deal that the Obama administration set up with Iran, where you try and set up a situation that Congress really can't react to? Is it constitutional to take away from our elected representatives the right to set tax rates in the United States that are most beneficial to this country, as opposed to tax rates that might help European nations tax our big tech firms, which is really what this is all about? So this is I don't know that this ever really comes about, but it's a threat to our constitutional system of government if you're going to take away from Congress the right to set tax rates. Plus, by the way, you don't know, even if it is, we're talking about statutory tax rates here. It's good to keep in mind that the other side of that is how countries define income. So it's what you tax that gets that's important, not only the percentage at which you tax it. So if there were countries that allowed deductions from income, you could actually have an effective rate that was much lower than the statutory rates. I don't even see this being a particularly effective means to keep tax rates up.
Yeah, we'll see. I find this as another pie-in-the-sky dream. I don't see why anybody would move to raise their taxes to make the U.S. look more competitive. They want to be a tax haven. Andy, it's good to see you. Thanks very much.
True.
We will keep following all of this. Maria. Andy Puzder joining us there.